Now, one basis for the Civil Unions Bill is the U.S. Supreme Court's holdings that the right to engage in sex outside of marriage, both homosexual and heterosexual, is a federal constitutional right. The founders would have been astonished at this for a number of reasons, but that is what the modern Supreme Court says. Now, ask yourself, what would be the reaction of the Colorado legislature's majority to a proposal requiring a background check before anyone could exercise the constitutional right of non-marital sex? What would be the reaction to a bill saying that the eager couple even had to pay the fee for the background check? What would be the reaction of Speaker Ferrandino or Senate President Morse to a bill stating that the eager couple was limited to 15 rounds, so to speak? No doubt those legislative leaders would explode in outrage. How do you limit a constitutional right that way, they'd sputter. Well, we might respond, we're just doing that with an enumerated right, which you're doing with an unenumerated right. Or we're doing it with an unenumerated right that you're doing with an enumerated right, the Second Amendment. When they stop sputtering, they might argue that, well, guns are different. 15,000 people each year die in America from gun violence. Is it different, we might say? 17,000 Americans die each year from AIDS, mostly arising from non-marital sex. And that figure doesn't even count other sexually transmitted diseases. So if you impose background checks and the like on our right to keep and bear arms, then we can impose similar restrictions on your right to bear other parts of your body. The same sort of argument that applies to the unenumerated right of non-marital sex and the enumerated right to keep and bear arms also applies to the enumerated rights of freedom of speech and freedom of the press. As a child of the 1960s and 70s, I remember how the free use of the First Amendment allowed protesters to pressure the federal government into some fatal mistakes in Southeast Asia. Mistakes which, as predicted, led inevitably to a bloodbath in which 2 million people died. You see, free speech can be really dangerous. Now, this is emphatically not an argument for government restrictions on free speech, okay? It's not an argument for government restrictions on non-marital sex. As the courts properly hold, the state and federal constitutions protect even rights with potentially dangerous consequences. For example, the courts hold that the government generally may not impose prior restraints on a person seeking to exercise First Amendment rights. Yet the worthies who run the Colorado legislature think nothing of imposing burdensome prior restraints on the entirely innocent enjoyment of Second Amendment